Hi, 7th grade. Today what we're going to do is we're going to start a new unit on composite figures, but what we want to do first is review different polygons. So today's date is 2/6, I think it's the 7th actually, but that's okay. I'm going to be on page 72. You may not. But what we're going to do is, sorry, where is it? We're going to find area of polygons. Okay, it means a figure with a different number of sides, right? Triangle, quadrilateral, parallelogram, trapezoid. So you've done these in the past before, but what we're going to do is go into a little bit of a review and just let you know why is the formula the way that it is. And I think that's important for better understanding, okay? So you've been given a foldable. Give me a second. And it looks like this, except for it's green. This was from last year, so I apologize. So a parallelogram. Okay, let me get out my little parallelogram here. If you notice, you don't have these, but if you notice that a parallelogram, okay, basically has two parallel lines here and two parallel lines here. And we know that the formula is base times height, and the reason for that is, let's suppose we took off a triangle here, okay? And if you notice, and I put it right here, is that the same area as a rectangle? Yes, okay? So the formula for a parallelogram, and you can go ahead and open that up, and I want you to use these measurements. So let's pretend that this is a 10, and my height is 4. It's never the distance or the length of this line right here. It's always going to be like a dotted line. It makes a right triangle, okay? And your area is going to be base times height. So 10 times 4 is 40. Okay. All right, moving right along. Next we're going to do is a triangle. Quick review. If you notice, I have a bunch of little triangles here. Okay. And if you notice that, oops, sorry. What do I have here? I have that's actually a square, okay? But a triangle, if I took half of it away, because look at what I do. If I put these two together, are those the same? Yes. All it is half of it. So no matter how I do it, for example, let's pretend that this triangle, oh, I always forget this one. Uh-oh. Okay, it works. The video's not going to last that long. So let's do this one. You notice these two, we are going to make and this one, it's not working either. I'm wondering if these were mixed up. This is just a really good example right here. So what you have is a square, okay? And when you take half of that, you now have a triangle, but it's still your base and then times your height, okay? But that's why we multiply it times 1/2, okay? So, on your foldable, go ahead, and under your triangle, we have 2 here, okay? So what we're going to do is we have one triangle. If we know that this is a 90-degree angle, this would be our height, right? And this would be our base. Okay, so the first one, it's always base times height divided by 2, because when you multiply something times 1/2, you're basically dividing it by 2. That's it. Because every triangle that I showed you was half of a square or a rectangle, wasn't it? Okay, so find your base times heights, don't worry about the fraction, and you just divide by 2. So the first one is 3 times 4 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. On my second one, you notice that I do not have a leg, and you notice that I drew I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's some dots here. That is my rectangle. So my height is actually going to be here, isn't it? And this would be my base. So whenever you have a triangle, okay, and you see that dotted line, that is going to be the height of your triangle. Okay, make sure you freeze the screen because I'm going to keep on going because of the time. And remember, this is just a review, okay, because it's going to lead into composite figures, which is what we're going to do. All right, next one. And a trapezoid. Let me get out my little fancy. So why is a trapezoid? First, let's talk about it. If this is a trapezoid, you notice that it has two parallel lines, okay? But then it has two edges, doesn't it? Okay, they are not parallel. Eventually, they would end up intersecting, okay? So we have a fancy formula for this, but the reason I want to share this with you is it kind of makes sense as to why we do what we do. If I had two parallelograms, okay, how do I find the area of just one? So if I duplicated it, okay, and then did this, let's do, I can't really show, there we go. Okay. Now if you notice, what do I have now? I have a parallelogram, don't I? Okay. So really all I'm doing is I'm adding my base times my what? Times my height divided by 2, okay? So all we're doing is you are going to add your base of the top and your base of the bottom. You multiply it times your height, and you end up dividing by 2. That's it, okay? So on this one, I put a 4 here, a 10. My height of my trapezoid is a 3, and the formula is the B1 plus B2, which is 4, basically the two bases, times your height, and you divide by 2. That's it. And I got 21, okay? All right. I don't want to go into this last one. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Actually, I do want to. We got time. Okay. Sorry, let me clean up for a second. Last year we did all this together, but okay. So let's look at, so the reason, why did I go back, you're going to have to freeze it. Sorry. Why did I go back through all of these simple polygons trying to find the area? Because this year what you're going to do is you're going to find the area of a composite figure. And a composite figure is basically just one figure that we break down into polygons that we have formulas for, okay? Now, this can be done many different ways. For example, I could just draw one, the goal is to draw one line or two, the fewest number possible so you have less work. Now, if you notice, I have a line here I could do, so that would be a rectangle, and then I would have a, even though that this is a right angle here, if you notice, it would still be a trapezoid, isn't it? I have two parallel lines, so I wouldn't have to create a square and then do the area of a triangle, now would I? I could just treat that as a trapezoid. So all I want you to do is I want you to draw that line right there, okay? So we have the area of, we need to find the rectangle, and this is a strategy that I use, and then we need to find the area of the trapezoid, and I need to add the two together, okay? So let's pretend that this is 8, this measurement right here. I want you to pretend that this area is 4, okay? How do I find the area of my rectangle? It's going to be base times height, 8 times 4, and that equals 32. Now, one thing that I do like to do is when you find the area for that one figure, go ahead and put that in the middle and draw a circle around it, because that means that I've already found it, okay? And now I'm going to do the trapezoid. Now the formula is going to be base 1 plus base 2, okay, divided by 2 times your height. So what does that mean? Let's pretend that this, give you the height, it's going to be a 4. Let's pretend that this length, okay, is, let's do 5. And this length, I'm going to say, is a 6, right? All the way. Now remember, if this is 4, so what would this be? We don't really need it in this problem. That's right, 6 minus the 4, wouldn't it? Okay? All right, let's focus on the trapezoid. My bases are 6 plus 5 divided by 2 times my height of 4. Okay? Now we know when we're multiplying, this is going to give me 11, right? I don't want to divide that by 2. Can I do division right here? Oh, I'm sorry. So 4 divided by 2, I can actually reduce right here, can't I? Gives me a 1. 6 plus 5 is 11 times my 2 equals 22. So the area here is 22. Okay, let me repeat what I just did here. So I had, all it is a formula, and by the way, all of these, where's my reference sheet? All of these are on here. Right here, they give you a triangle, they give you a rectangle or a parallelogram, and a trapezoid, and you've seen these before. Now you notice a half, and I told you to do it a little differently, didn't I? I said find your base times height and then divide by 2. The same thing here. Okay, base 1 plus base 2 times your height divided by 2. Now when you're doing that, okay, I can still reduce here. If 4 divided by 2 gives me a 2 on the top. Now I could have done 6 plus 5 is 11, so that's 5.5 times 2, right? And then divided by 2. All right, so your answer was 22, but what do I need to do with those two numbers? I add them. 32 plus 22 is equal to 54. So really you have done this in the past, nothing new. Learning to recognize the polygons and then finding the area and adding them all together, okay? Now, what I want you to do here, I want you just to practice, okay? Some of these are going to be a little bit hard. Some of them are a little easy, okay? But I think that, if you notice here, would be a rectangle and then half of a circle, okay? All I want you to do today, I want you to do 1A, 1B. I don't want you to do these two yet. Then I want you to do E, and I want you to do A and B, okay? And guess what? You have the answers on the back. You can self-check, okay? All right, see you tomorrow.